Are you tired of working harder and harder, yet still feeling like money is never enough? As if it's always running ahead of you, and you're perpetually behind it, exhausted and out of breath. What if I told you that the problem isn't your effort or even your faith, but the way you are applying God's principles? There is something that almost no one tells you. In the kingdom of God, it's not just about praying, it's about applying. And Solomon, the wisest and wealthiest man to ever walk this earth, understood this perfectly. He was not blessed by chance. He was blessed because he learned how to make money work for him, and not the other way around. Most people struggle their entire lives trying to gather more money, when the secret is not to accumulate, but to activate. Solomon did not depend on a salary or on luck. He depended on revealed wisdom. And today, I am going to show you 3 secrets extracted directly from his principles that can transform the way you see money. And not only that, they can start putting your money to work for you. But I must warn you, this is not a video of empty promises. Here, we talk about practical, biblical, and spiritual wisdom. We are going to connect faith with strategy, because what you are about to learn can trigger a radical transition in your economy if you decide to act. And I promise you something, the second secret is so powerful that when I understood it, I stopped chasing money and started attracting provision. Stay until the end, because in the final minutes, I'm going to share something special for those who want to go deeper and have access to content reserved for the brave. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notifications, because this is just one of many mentorships that will change your perspective and your financial reality. Have you ever felt like a person who works tirelessly, and yet your money never stretches far enough? Many live trapped in the cycle of producing and spending without ever experiencing multiplication. This is not just a matter of income. It is a matter of misapplied spiritual principles. Money was created to serve, but if you do not know how to manage it, it will end up ruling your life. And God did not design his children to be slaves to the system. The Bible is clear. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, from Luke 16 verse 10. If the little you have today is not producing, it is because you are not using it with purpose. Solomon understood that it is not enough to have resources. You must put them to work. And that begins by identifying what you are sowing into and whether that soil is truly fertile. The problem is not just how much you earn, but how you manage what you already have. Have you noticed that some people prosper with much less than you? The reason is not luck, it is wisdom. It is focus. They are people who decided to take control of their finances, to stop being victims of the system, and to start acting as stewards of the kingdom. Because while some spend on impulse, others invest with vision. On which side are you? Many live under the fixed salary mentality, as if that were the only form of provision. But God's design is much broader. The Hebrew people in the desert were fed with manna every day, but when they entered the promised land, God stopped sending the manna. Why? Because now it was their responsibility to cultivate and multiply. Manna is temporary, multiplication is destiny. And to multiply, you need to know where you are losing money without even realizing it. Unnecessary subscriptions, impulsive meals, hidden debts, emotional spending, these are small leaks that, over time, empty your pockets. It is not just about having more, but about stopping what is draining you right now. Multiplication begins with order. Money will not work for you if you do not work with wisdom, and that involves differentiating spending from investment. What gives you instant pleasure often robs you of your future, but what you sow with purpose, even if it seems small, can generate an eternal harvest. Solomon said, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down, from Proverbs 21, verse 20. Imagine that every bill in your wallet is a seed. Are you sowing them, or are you simply consuming them? Seeds sown with direction produce. Those that are only eaten disappear. God gave you resources not just to survive, but to establish the kingdom, and that only happens when money ceases to be your boss and becomes your servant. This is where many fail. They want financial freedom without discipline. They dream of abundance, but are unwilling to let go of habits that tie them to scarcity. You cannot sow disorder and expect to reap stability. Prosperity is not an event. It is a culture, and it begins by reviewing your patterns today. That is why I want you to ask yourself this question today. Is my money serving me, or am I enslaved to it? If it is not working for you, it is time to change the way you see it. Because as long as you treat it as something fleeting, it will continue to slip away. But if you honor it with purpose, it will become a channel of blessing. And that channel is activated with the right principles. Now that you understand why your money is not producing as it should, let's get into the first secret of Solomon for multiplication, using what you already have with wisdom. Even if it seems small, if you put it in motion, God can do something great. The first secret of Solomon is simple but powerful. Multiply what you already have. Many people wait until they have more to begin, when the principle of the kingdom is exactly the opposite. In Ecclesiastes 11 verses 4-6, we are told that whoever watches the wind will not plant, whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, the one who waits for perfect conditions will never advance. Solomon knew that the beginning of abundance is not in what is lacking, but in what is already in your hands. We all have something we can multiply. Maybe it's not money, but it is time, skills, contacts, or knowledge. If you do not value what you have now, you are not ready for what is to come. Multiplication begins with gratitude and movement. The widow with the oil in 2 Kings 4 had only one jar and a little oil. But when she obeyed the prophet and used the little she had, God multiplied it in abundance. And you? Are you waiting for a miracle, or are you activating the miracle with what you already have? Sometimes what you need is not more capital, but more action with what you already possess. Many underestimate small beginnings, but what starts with faithfulness ends in fullness. Remember, the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed. Do not focus on how small it seems, but on how large it can become. And what if the idea you are postponing is precisely the one God wants to use to free you from scarcity? In today's world, there are multiple ways to put something in motion, from selling a handmade product to creating a digital channel or offering a simple service you already master. The important thing is not the format, it is the principle. If you do not put what you have to work, you cannot demand more. God does not multiply stagnation, He multiplies obedience. There is a story of Mariana, a single mother in Peru who started by selling cakes in her neighborhood. She was scared, she knew nothing about business, but she began with faith. What she earned, she reinvested. In 6 months, she had a loyal clientele, and today she employs other women. She did not wait until she had everything. She started with what she had, and God did the rest. What many call little on earth, God calls seed in heaven. Are you burying your talents out of fear of failure? Solomon taught that the diligent will see fruit, but the lazy will only see hunger. The spiritual world responds to effort guided by faith. It is not about moving out of anxiety, but out of obedience. And here, I want to pause to invite you to something special. We have prepared an enriching material that reveals 10 spiritual secrets to transform your finances according to the Bible. It is a 30-day challenge that has already changed lives. It is not just any book. It is a guide to activate your faith with wisdom. Click on the first pinned comment. This resource is not just information, it is an activation. Because many know they must advance but do not know how. That you will find clear direction, biblical foundations, practical exercises, and a spiritual journey that can revolutionize your economy. Do not ignore it. Sometimes a small decision activates a giant multiplication. Returning to the secret, what seems insufficient today will be a testimony tomorrow if you put it in motion. Multiply what you have, even if it seems small, even if no one values it. God honors the one who moves in faith, and that is the key to activating the next secret, how to transform your ideas into real production. Secret number 2, make your ideas productive. Solomon said in Proverbs 14 verse 23, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." In other words, an idea that does not become action is just an illusion. God gives us ideas not to be stored away, but to be developed. A fertile mind, like a fertile field, bears fruit if it is sown. Many people have great dreams, brilliant projects, and incredible revelations, but they do not advance. Why? Because they are waiting for everyone's approval, for the perfect moment, or for guarantees of success. Meanwhile, others with simpler ideas are already seeing results. The difference is not the idea, it is the execution. An idea in the kingdom is not just human creativity. Often, it is a divine download, a seed from heaven waiting for action on earth. And what if that thought that constantly comes to you is not a coincidence but an instruction? The faster you obey, the faster you will see fruit. The time for thinking is over. It is time to act. What many do not understand is that productivity does not mean doing more things, but doing what God has commanded you to do with diligence. You can have 1,000 occupations, but if none are aligned with your calling, you will end up exhausted and without fruit. Biblical productivity is purpose multiplied. Take the example of Andres, a young man in Mexico who dreamed of impacting lives by teaching financial education from a Christian perspective. He spent years thinking about how to do it. One day, he simply recorded a video with his cell phone and uploaded it to YouTube. He had no semi-professional experience, but he did it with faith. Today, he impacts thousands weekly. Productivity began with obedience. You do not need a company to be productive. Maybe your thing is to write, design, teach, consult, sell, or serve. The unused talent rusts, the used talent expands. God does not put ideas in your mind to adorn them. He puts them there for you to use. And when you use your gifts for the kingdom backs your work. And what if the next income you are waiting for depends on the idea you have not yet executed? Heaven responds to movement. You do not need to do it perfectly. You just need to start, and God will align the resources, the people, and the opportunities along the way. But it all starts with you. Here I throw you a practical challenge. Think of an idea that God has already given you but that you have postponed. Write it down, pray over it, and take one step today. Publish something, call someone, open that file, begin. You will see how celestial productivity begins to manifest when you decide to act. And if you have come this far, I want to ask you for something very special. Leave in the comments this phrase as a prophetic act and declaration of faith. My ideas produce and prosper, guided by God. This is not just a comment, it is an activation. It is putting into motion what God has already planted in your mind. There is power when you declare in alignment with God's will. And by writing that, you are telling heaven, I am ready to produce, I am ready to multiply, I am ready to use what you gave me. And believe me, heaven responds to that kind of heart. Solomon was not just wise, he was strategic. He did not live on inspiration, he lived on application. He did not dream of riches, he built systems that generated abundance. And that same pattern is available to you. The second secret is this: make your ideas become production, and production will attract provision. Now, there is a question that many ask, and what if I produce, but no one buys it? The answer lies in the next secret: how to sow in strategic places to reap real multiplication. Secret number 3: sow where there is purpose, not just emotion. One of the biggest reasons why money does not multiply is because it is sown where there is emotion, not where there is purpose. Solomon made it clear in Ecclesiastes 11 verse 6, "Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed." It is not about sowing where it feels nice, but where God shows you that there is fertile ground. Many confuse sensitivity with direction. They give, invest, or sow, moved by the emotion of the moment, but they do not discern if that ground was assigned by God. The result? Frustration, loss, discouragement. But when you sow where there is purpose, even if you do not see immediate results, you can be sure that heaven is involved. Jesus taught us that there is good ground and also rocky, thorny, and shallow ground. Not every sowing produces, not every project bears fruit. But when you sow in the right place, something supernatural happens. Even if your resources seem small, purpose multiplies what the pocket cannot. Think of the story of the young Colombian entrepreneur, Samuel. He had some savings and decided to invest it in a fast fashion business because it was trendy. He lost everything in 3 months. Then he understood that his calling was in children's education and started with a free channel. Today, he has a network of biblical teaching for children that sustains his family and blesses thousands. Do not sow where there is fame. Do not sow where there is noise. Sow where there is legacy, where your investment not only comes back to you but transforms lives. Sometimes the best sowing is in a small vision but with a deep root. Other times it is in someone who does not yet have visibility but has a true calling. When you sow in works with purpose, your seed becomes a testimony. Money ceases to be a tool of the ego and is transformed into an instrument for the expansion of the kingdom. That is what Solomon did. He built alliances, sent resources, built cities, not just with gold, but with celestial vision. And here is a powerful point. Do not only sow in the visible, sow also in the spiritual. Offer your time, intercession, mentorship. The ground that receives that kind of seed responds in unexpected ways. Many incomes come disguised as connections, ideas, or opportunities sown with a clean heart. Now, I want to open a special space. If you have a prayer request about your finances, your economic decisions, or any area of your life, write it in the comments. Also, take a moment to pray for someone else. This channel is a community of faith, and praying for others is sowing in good ground. Perhaps your greatest harvest will come from a prayer you made for someone else. Perhaps heaven is waiting for you to activate your generous heart, not just with money, but with compassion. Because what you give comes back, and when your sowing is genuine, God does not fail to respond. Remember, sowing in purpose does not always look profitable at first, But the profitability of the kingdom is not measured in weeks. It is measured in eternal fruits. And everything you sow in obedience, in faith, and in love will be rewarded. Solomon knew that every correct seed brought more than money. It brought influence, peace, honor, and protection. And that is the power of sowing strategically. You are not just investing. You are participating in something greater, something that only heaven can reward. And speaking of lasting rewards, let's now go to the fourth and final secret: how to make money work for you without it getting lost along the way. Secret number 4: create a system that works for you. Solomon did not just accumulate wealth. He built systems that produced wealth without his constant presence. The Book of Kings shows how he delegated, established trade routes, managed resources, and created a functional network that maintained the prosperity of the kingdom, even in his absence. This is a powerful principle. The rich do not sell their time. They create structures that produce even while they sleep. Today, we call it passive income, automation, scalable systems. The idea is the same. Money should work for you, not you for it. The difference between someone who is always chasing after provision and someone who manages it in peace lies in this principle. While many wear themselves out exchanging hours for dollars, others invest time in building systems that give them freedom. This does not mean abandoning effort or looking for magic formulas. It means applying wisdom. Jesus also delegated. He sent out others, multiplied through disciples. He showed that a message, a well-planned action, can transcend. The same applies to your finances. It is not enough to have income. You need to create channels that flow without your constant effort. A system can be a digital business, a well-placed investment, an alliance that gives you a constant return. Even something you build once, like a book, a course, an automated store, can generate income for you for years. The key is to shift from the mindset of just working to the mindset of building. Remember the advice of Ecclesiastes 11 verse 2. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. This is not just diversification, it is foresight, it is strategy. Solomon knew that multiple systems provided stability. And you need the same: multiple sources, multiple flows, a firm structure. Many think this is only for millionaires, but no, it is for the one who wants to multiply with wisdom. You can start with something small from your home. The important thing is the vision. The important thing is to act with intention. A system begins with organization, with planning, with responsibility. And if you value this type of content, this type of deep, revealing, and applicable teaching for your financial and spiritual life, then let me make you a special invitation. Become part of the members club of this channel. There, every week, we release exclusive content, deep mentorships like this one, and advanced materials that are not available to the general public. It is our way of honoring those who decide to sow into this ministry and walk closer with us. By joining the club, you become a partner in this mission, and, more than that, you become a channel of blessing. Because what you receive multiplies, and what you share positions you. Members receive access to revelations that are transforming lives and can transform yours too. This secret of building systems is not an option, it is a necessity. Because whoever does not build structures that produce on their own is condemned to repeat cycles of effort without rest. And you are not called to that. You are called to steward, to multiply, to govern. That is why the next step is essential. It is not enough to have systems. You need to protect what you have already built. And that is the theme of our final chapter. Solomon, in his wisdom, not only taught how to generate wealth, but also how not to lose it. Proverbs 27 verses 23 to 24 says, "Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. For riches do not endure forever." This warning is more relevant than ever. Earning money is one thing. Keeping it is another entirely different thing. Many reach a certain level of prosperity and then fall because they do not know how to protect what they have built. They stop watching their expenses, they surround themselves with the wrong people, or they relax in their principles. But what is not cared for is lost. That is why God calls us to be faithful guardians of the resources He entrusts to our hands. Protection begins with discernment. Not everything that glitters is an opportunity. Many times, the enemy disguises himself as a financial miracle to divert your focus. And if you are not connected to the voice of God, you can compromise your stability. Prayer is the best spiritual alarm system. It also involves constantly reviewing your priorities. Are you investing in what really matters? Does your money reflect your purpose? Many spend fortunes on the superficial but do not invest in what nourishes their minds, strengthens their families, or expands their calling. To protect wealth is to protect the vision that generated it. Do not ignore the invisible leaks, unnecessary expenses, bad habits, emotional debts. Those small cracks can drain great blessings. That is why, like Solomon, you need to watch over your fields, your barns, your relationships. What is well managed grows. What is neglected falls apart. And it is not about living in fear. It is about living with wisdom. God does not multiply for us to waste, but for us to steward. When you understand this, every coin becomes a seed. Every investment becomes a sacred decision. You do not just have wealth. You have a mission. This secret is not popular, but it is vital. Many fail not due to a lack of talent, but to an excess of confidence. They believe there will always be more. But the wise person plans, saves, foresees. The wise person prepares for difficult seasons, and that preparation is part of faith. Just as Joseph prepared Egypt during the years of abundance, you also need to prepare your house, your accounts, your vision. Because he who protects what God gave him will be entrusted with more. And now that you know this, it is time to close this journey with a conclusion that ties it all together. Everything we have talked about today are not just financial strategies. They are spiritual keys that can transform your economy from the inside out. Solomon was not the richest man just by luck, but because he understood how to align his mind, his habits, and his decisions with the will of God. And you are being invited to do the same, step by step, with faith and determination. It is not about having more money to live in luxury, but to live with purpose, with freedom, and with the ability to bless others. Because when money works for you and not the other way around, you can focus on the eternal, your family, your calling, your legacy. And that is true wealth. So do not stop here. Apply what you have learned today. Pray for direction, organize your finances, evaluate your habits, and start building a system that honors God and frees up your time and your mind. This was just the beginning of a new cycle. The next step is in your hands. And if you have a financial, personal, or spiritual prayer request, write it in the comments. Here, we pray together, we believe together, and we see miracles together. You are not alone. We will see you in the next video. Until then, may God bless you in all areas of your life. And remember this, it is not just about money, it is about eternal purpose.